In the bright midday silence of a schoolyard in rural Zimbabwe, dozens of children claimed they saw something land beyond the trees. What they described would echo for decades because it did not sound like a passing light or a distant aircraft. They said a dark object rested in the field, and nearby a figure moved with an unsettling stillness. The question that still follows the case is simple and enormous. What did so many children believe they saw together? This happened near Ruwa, not far from Harare, at a school known as Ariel. In September 1994. The place was ordinary in every way, which is part of why the story never quite leaves the mind. Zimbabwe at that moment was a country moving through change, with news of the world arriving slowly and life still shaped by local routines. In that setting, a strange event at a school could spread first as rumor, then as memory, then as legend. The children were outside during a break when the sky, the field, and the treeline became the center of attention. What began as a moment of curiosity soon turned into a shared account that adults struggled to ignore. According to later interviews, the sighting was not vague or dreamlike. Many of the children described a shiny craft, low to the ground, with an almost purposeful stillness that made the scene feel deliberate. Then came the figure, or figures depending on the account. Witnesses claimed they saw a small being with a large head and dark eyes, moving in a way that seemed both physical and strangely unearthly. What makes the case endure is not just the image, but the consistency. The children were interviewed separately, and many accounts overlapped in the broad shape of the event, even when details varied. That consistency matters because children do not usually craft the same story with the same timing under pressure. Yet the interviews also showed differences, and those differences are part of why the case remains open rather than settled. Some said the object descended quickly, others remembered it as already there. Some focused on the craft, others on the being, and a few on the feeling that the encounter carried a message rather than a warning. That message is one of the most compelling parts of the story. Several witnesses later recalled a sense of concern about the future, as if the encounter was less about spectacle than about attention. Whether that meaning came from the event itself or from the children's interpretation is impossible to prove. Still, the emotional detail is hard to dismiss because it appears in so many retellings of the case. Investigators and journalists were drawn to the school soon after, trying to capture the testimony before memory shifted. Their notes preserved a rare thing in this field, a cluster of child witnesses speaking close to the event. The setting itself adds weight to the claim. Open land, clear sightlines, and daylight reduce some of the usual uncertainty that surrounds nighttime sightings or distant lights in the sky. A few of the children even drew what they said they had seen, and those drawings became part of the case's afterlife. Simple lines on paper can sometimes carry more force than pages of argument. The drawings are striking because they converge on similar shapes: a low craft, a rounded form, and figures with oversized heads or eyes. For believers, that kind of overlap feels like a fingerprint left by reality. Skeptical readers point out that children talk to one another, and memory can settle into a shared pattern very quickly. That is a fair caution, and it does not erase the force of what the children believed happened. The strongest believer case rests on the combination of numbers, timing, and emotion. Dozens of witnesses, a brief window of observation, and a story that remained vivid long after the school day ended. There is also the matter of the interviews themselves, which many find unusually compelling. The children appeared earnest, often hesitant, and not like performers trying to impress adults with a clever tale. That does not settle the question, but it changes the tone of it. The case is less about a single impossible image than about a group of young witnesses trying to describe something that exceeded their language. Alternative explanations remain on the table. Collective suggestion, media influence, and the natural instability of childhood memory can all shape a dramatic shared account without any extraordinary event at its center. And yet the case resists being reduced too quickly. The children's reports emerged before the story had time to harden into folklore, which is why the first interviews still matter so much. There is no public radar record that resolves the mystery, no official landing trace that closes it, and no photograph that ends the debate. What remains is testimony, memory, and the stubborn shape of the event. That may be why the Ariel school encounter continues to fascinate. It sits at the crossroads of childhood perception and something that, if real, would not fit easily into ordinary categories. The most difficult question is not whether the children were sincere, but what sincerity can and cannot tell us. A sincere report may still be mistaken, yet a sincere report can also be the first trace of something genuinely unexplained. For many who study the case, the enduring power lies in that uncertainty. The story never becomes neat, and the lack of neatness is exactly what keeps it alive. Years later, the encounter still feels close because it happened in a place built for ordinary trust. A schoolyard is where children are meant to be safe, and where strange events therefore carry a special emotional charge. If the event was a shared misreading, it was an unusually powerful one. If it was something else, then the children of Ariel may have seen a brief visitor from a reality we still do not understand. That tension is the heart of the case, the ordinary school, the extraordinary claim, and the gap between them. The more carefully it is examined, the less it seems to fit a simple ending. Even now, the encounter invites a question that is bigger than one playground in Zimbabwe. When children independently describe the same impossible moment, what exactly are we being asked to consider? The Ariel school case does not hand us certainty. It leaves us with testimony that feels sincere, details that feel strangely aligned, and explanations that remain possible but incomplete. And so the mystery remains where it began, in the space between what the children saw and what the world can confidently name. That is why the story still lingers, asking whether something truly passed over Ariel that day.